Welcome, Tim Wilde and Diana Cooper. You are now part of our Livsenergi channel. It's a video channel where we interview authors that we launch books from.
Oh.
So our publishing house is mainly a book club, but also a publishing house that sells books in other channels, so to say. And we are focused on the body, mind, spirit segment. So our next book to launch in January is this one. And that's why we're talking to each other today.
Lovely.
So it's the Archangel Guide to Ascension. And we will keep this cover actually in the Swedish version, but we will use a golden foil for the title. Is this your first book that you co-write?
Together.
Yes. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So I want to, in a minute, we'll talk a little bit of how you met and everything.
Okay.
So to me, the two of you are like partners. I was going to say partners in angel crime, but then I realized that that's not very good.
It's got, I like that description. I like it.
Partners in angel wisdom and guidance is much better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we will hear a little bit about, because it's not only angels, it's so much more than this. I realized that this book covers kind of everything in the esoteric realms. And there is so much to learn and get inspiration from. But still, the title is about archangels, and a lot of my questions will circle around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about archangels, masters, and special techniques and energies for ascension that are coming in right now. So it does cover everything that you need for higher ascension, for the boost that is needed now at this extraordinary time that we're living in, when the energies coming in are so much higher than ever before, and everybody is being given the opportunity to wake up and accelerate their way on their ascension path.
Yeah.
Tim has always been interested in ascension. I think I can safely say that. When we very first met, almost the first thing he said to me was that he wanted to be an ascension teacher. And at that time, he had a gardening business and wasn't in any way able to see himself as an ascension teacher or how it could come about. But perhaps you'd like to tell how it happened, Tim.
It was I remember it like it was yesterday, Diana. It was you were at a book signing in Bournemouth, which I had no idea that you live locally to, and it was your book Discover Atlantis, which was, you know, it's still to this day it's the kind of the utmost go-to for any Atlantean information, and it was. I waited, I attended your talk and waited. I was one of these people that waited until the end of, like you basically had enough, you packed up and all of a sudden I'm there kind of thing, wanting a conversation.
I remember it well.
And so we chatted briefly and you asked what I did. And I said, I'd just started my own gardening business and lo and behold, you needed a gardener. So I turned up at your house the next day with all of my gardening equipment, and that, as they say, is how the story began.
Well, not quite. Because I said to you, do you think you could just cut back that hawthorn hedge, one particular tree? And you went out and you came back a few minutes later and you said, the tree has told me that it's your protection and you need it, so I shouldn't cut it down. And I thought, what kind of gardener is this?
It was one of the most, I really had to kind of gain my composure to do this, because obviously, like, you know, it's not just my first day on the job, it's my first day on the job for you kind of thing. And like all of a sudden I've got to turn around and tell you that your trees are talking to me and that I can't do the job. So it was take a deep breath in and present the information. And it was, the trees that surrounded your property were your protection, and they were shouting at me very loudly not to cut them and not to touch them. So it was a good introduction, wasn't it?
It was amazing. Yeah. And then I think it was the second time you came and we actually had a cup of tea in the garden afterwards. Is that right?
We did.
And that was the day the feathers fell.
That was right. Yeah, that was quite an indication that because
And both of you saw them.
Oh
yeah,
no, they were real feathers.
I mean, there was
All around
literally,
on the lawn.
it was, if I hadn't seen it and I hadn't been there, it's quite the sort of thing that you could easily have dreamed of, but you remembered. But we both sat there and just watched these feathers
All
falling
around.
out of the trees. I mean, they were literally raining feathers. It was incredible.
It was the
And,
most.
and didn't you walk around and count them at the end or something like that? And we were talking, there were it wasn't they were hundreds. There were hundreds of feathers on the floor. It was really quite incredible. And it was a lovely sunny warm evening, and we were just sat there watching this, like, and we're talking about, you know, we're talking about setting the world to rights, and the trees are raining feathers. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
What kind of sign did you interpret that as being?
I just had a load of information which was going to project me into a very similar pathway to Diana's, although I had no idea how this was going to transpire and how it was going to occur. And it was almost like Diana's giving me this information, and as she is, the trees are literally responding with the feathers, and it was incredible, dreamlike memory and confirmation. Yeah,
that's right. And you asked me what your path was, and I gave you Discover Atlantis.
Yeah, it's like, right, go away and read it and remember who you are, remember the immortal words. It was brilliant. Yeah. And so I did, I remembered. And
actually, you then went off and did other things, and you continued gardening for me.
Yeah, I got married, I had a little boy. There was 4 years. It was almost like a 4-year period, and then it's almost like the cosmic moment, the 21st of December 2012. That was the mission activation. From that point onwards, I was beginning to step onto the pathway. So
well, I remember you walking into the kitchen. I hadn't seen you for ages.
Yeah.
And Metatron said to me, "He's ready." And I turned to you and said, "Would you like to write a book with me?" And that was the Archangel Guide to Ascension.
It was incredible. Yeah.
But it's kind of in the beginning of your cooperation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd been gardening and I'd been gardening for Diana for years, and we'd got to know each other really well and became friends. But all of a sudden there was this moment where Archangel Metatron said, right, you two will be working together as you know, like an ascension partnership. And that was when the book was formulated. And the idea behind the book wasn't just to cover, like, you know, Diana's idea behind it was to create an A to Z of essential information for the current ascension process. Because there's a lot of information out there, but it wasn't up to date. The energy had changed, and the information needed to be brought up into a vibration that people could absorb it at a higher level. So that's what that book was.
Yeah, done very simply so that people could understand it as well.
Yeah.
But it's not very simple. It's actually very, very comprehensive.
Oh, yeah.
But in a simple way. I am amazed with the books. I've looked through a couple of your books, Diana, just to actually be able to choose one to translate into Swedish, because you have written 27 books. Is that correct?
No, a lot more than that.
A lot more than that. Well, there's a whole library of your books, and many more if we were to count the languages that they are translated to. But the funny thing is, or the interesting thing is, that none of them have been translated to Swedish yet.
No.
So this is the first one. And I want to ask both of you, did we make the right choice to take this book and not one of the others?
If you wanted to take a book of Tim and myself, this is the first book. And so, yes, that is the right one in order. And the next one is the Archangel Guide to Enlightenment and Mastery. And that's the next step.
Yeah.
So this book is for who? Who would you say should read this book?
Anyone who is awake and on the ascension pathway, because as soon as you read it and you tune into the beings in it, they will take you to wherever you need to read in the book.
It's comprehensive in the way that it covers all aspects of the spiritual pathway. It's a little bit of everything that people encounter on their and it's relevant. The information in it is more relevant for the period that we're in now than say prior to 2012. It's a modern day updated version of information that Diana has put out there before, but it's now coming at a higher level, if you see what I mean. There's new information, there's new masters, there's new energy and new methods to be using it. And of course, once we've switched into this new vibration that we're in now, everything changes. And as we can see from the world around us, it changes very quickly. So the book it's almost like an instruction manual on how to deal with it practically.
I mean, it starts with Lady Gaia and your soul contract for coming to Earth, and the very simplicity of what that's all about, so that people know why they're actually here and what they've contracted to do. And then it takes you through the steps. And I think that it gives a very comprehensive journey through the 12 chakras, because even now, people are still using their third dimensional chakras. And if you do, then you are holding yourself in the third dimension. So I think that the most important thing is working with your 12 chakras. And once you start doing that, everything expands.
You know, our readers are very interested in chakras. Can you just develop this part a little bit? So what does it mean when you say we hold on to our third dimensional chakras? Which are they, and what does it mean compared to what you're explaining in the Archangel book? I know it's a lot to ask, for it's a bigger chapter than just a few sentences, but still a little bit.
Okay.
Well, shall I do a bit and you do a bit, Tim? Okay, the chakras come down in a column. And so as your frequency rises, you bring down higher frequency chakras. In Atlantis, everybody had 12 chakras. They were fifth dimensional. See, the cat loves this. She's dancing around as we talk about chakras. And so it's time now, and has been for some time, to bring that energy from Atlantis back. As soon as that happens, your third dimensional ones, the 7, go down into the earth, and the 12 start to come down, starting with Archangel Sandalphon's Earth Star chakra below your feet. And that then, when that is triggered, that triggers all your chakras to open, and you become a much more expanded high frequency being. You want to continue, Tim?
Yeah, I think it's an important note, or I remember when we were writing the book, the Archangel Guide to Ascension, the focus was get as much information about the 12 chakras out there as possible, because it's almost like we're reflecting a conversation we had back then when we were writing the book about how the fact that people on the spiritual pathway are still using the old traditional, we call like the primary colors, like the red for the base and say the yellow for the solar plexus. Everybody will be familiar with those colors. Now, what has happened is that the energy has changed on this planet so dramatically in the last 8 years that nobody here has actually got those chakras anymore. They have descended. And I'm not just talking about the people on the spiritual pathway. The blueprint for the 12 chakras, to this is as far as our information goes, has now been replaced with the 12 chakras. So every single soul on this planet is using this new higher version of themselves, but a lot of them are still referring to the old pattern, to the old colors, to the old, and it's.
And if you do refer to the old patterns and colors, you bring them back into you.
Yeah, it's almost like it's kind of activating something that's defunct and is no longer. It's not like it doesn't not work. It just simply works at a much more limited version of itself. If that makes sense.
I think this is really interesting with the chakras, and we will do something special with the launch about these chakras, because I've heard so many times during the past years that everyone is talking about 7 and 8 chakras, but what about the 12?
Yeah.
What about all the others?
As soon as you bring in the 12 chakras, you start to bring back your gifts and talents from Atlantis. And as they expand and grow bigger and even higher frequency, then you bring back more of who you were in Atlantis. You also start the process of bringing back the 12 strands of DNA. And of course, when we move into the next stage of humanity in the golden age, then everyone will have their 12 strands of DNA connected and active. And that means that we will have huge powers, psychic abilities that we have not got anymore. This is now what is being prepared for us at the next stage.
It's almost like we're in the, sorry, it's almost like we're in the
go on.
process of developing these at the moment. It's almost like as we're moving through the energies, we're beginning to see signs and hints and kind of little tidbits of and as people are waking up and reclaiming their power and using the chakras, a lot of the time subconsciously, if they haven't got the information at their fingertips, it's such an incredible period of expansion at the moment. People are just all of a sudden moving into this kind of warp speed version of reality that they had previously. It's, and the gifts and the talent begin to come with that.
It sounds almost like a rebirth.
Yeah, it's exactly what we're going through. Yeah. Exactly what we're going through.
So I want to rewind a little bit and just listen into. I know you have had a life before you met each other, and I just want to listen in. Where does everything come from? How, Diana? Let's start with you. When did you realize that there are other dimensions of life, the angelic realm, and how you were going to be connected to that? And
okay, the brief version. I was at rock bottom, getting divorced, couldn't see a future, had no spiritual or religious or psychic background. I just sat in a chair and said, if there's anything out there, show me. And an angel came in. Now, I knew it was an angel, and it took me on a journey and showed me my future, told me that I was to be a spiritual teacher, and I had no idea what it was talking about. But after that, I trained to be a hypnotherapist. I was aware of angels around my clients, but I didn't connect with them. It wasn't for another 10 years when I was asking for guidance, and the angel said, we want you to tell people about angels. And I said, no way, thank you. I don't want to do that. People will think I'm crazy. And they said words that are indelible in my mind. Who is doing your work? Is it your ego or your higher self? And I said, okay. And 3 angels gave me a whole lot of information, which became my first book on angels. And I've dedicated myself to working with them ever since. And they've supported me ever since.
That's funny. So when you saw the angels in the beginning, you just let them be? You didn't try to connect with them, or what did you think about them?
Well, don't forget, I came from nothing to that space. And yeah, I just felt this is amazing. There is clearly something else out there. And I started to meet people who explained things to me that we'd had many lifetimes, all of which made immediate sense to me. And so I was learning on many levels. I was also connecting to my spirit guides, but not particularly with the angels until they came back and asked me to.
Yeah, that's fun. And what about you, Tim? Tell us.
I've had very interesting journey. I think I was always a very kind of psychic child. Like I've always been, you know, I know it sounds a bit of a cliche, but I've always been awake, and there wasn't any part of can't remember any particular point where I've been shut down. I was a very psychic child, and I had supportively hippie parents as well. So it's almost like that my surroundings were kind of my mum and my dad with their kind of like spiritual bodies meditating. They were into the transcendental meditation scene. So there's always been that air of kind of spirituality under my roof, but never developed in a way that obviously that we're presenting now. But I had an accident when I was just before my 18th birthday, when I rode into a tractor. I used to be a racing cyclist. I rode into a tractor at 35 miles an hour, fractured my skull, and basically died for 20 minutes in the road. And it's almost like when I came back into my body 20 minutes later, obviously with a horrible headache and had to spend a few days in hospital, it's almost like almost like an activation or a rewiring or something had occurred. And it was from that point onwards I started doing what we call, the seeking aspect, which is when you start seeking information, you want answers. I started reading the books on my parents' shelves and asking, what's the bigger picture. I'd actually seen the light at the end of the tunnel while I was unconscious and rode towards it. So it was quite a big confirmation. But it was at that point that I discovered all of this amazing information that's out there, and it wasn't long before I came across Diana's first books and kind of hoovered all the information up, and that was it really. It was off on my merry pathway from that point onwards.
That's lovely to hear. And then you met. So
Yeah.
What brought you into gardening? I mean, that's also
probably an urgent need for grounding, I think, more than anything else.
Let me explain that Tim is triple fire.
Yes,
you're triple fire. You need
four parts fire. It's I think it's Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Rising are all in Leo, with no Earth in my chart whatsoever. So I think actually kind of keeping my feet on the ground, mowing lawns, and digging borders was actually essential for quite a considerable period of time, actually.
And you see, I'm the exact opposite. I've got 8 in Earth.
Wow. I still find that quite incredible, actually.
So I need fire people around me.
Yeah. 8 in Earth is amazing.
When you talk about, this is new language to me, when you say triple fire, 8 of Earth, how would I translate that to myself?
That's astrology. It's say you look at your horoscope, say what star sign are you? Do you mind me asking?
It's Taurus.
You're Taurus. So you're an Earth sign, but as if you say, so you're born somewhere between April and May, but on a specific day at the time that you were born, you will have been born with an astrological chart, and that will include all of the planets of the zodiac, all of the planets in our particular.
They're influencing you for that lifetime.
So you could have your moon in, say, Scorpio. You could have your Mercury, which controls your kind of thoughts, or not controls, but influences your speech and the way that you think. That could be in Taurus, or it could be in Gemini, which is the next one along. It's very interesting. You need to know when you were born, obviously, and the time of your birth, where were you born, and that's known as an astrological chart.
And it's the moment of your birth is very, very carefully planned, and it's very important. I was born in the Himalayas at a particular moment when the first bomb fell on London, and that was planned by the hierarchy. I was literally shoved out into Earth to be there at that moment, so that I could balance the light and dark in the east and west. So these things are very, very important. Yes.
So how come you were born in the Himalayas?
My mother was there.
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously.
oh, I'm glad that's obvious. Yeah.
Maybe they lived there. Did you live there?
Yeah, my parents were there. My father was in the army.
I see. And then you moved back to the UK?
When I was 5, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Diana, your books about the angelic realm are quite different, to me at least, from a lot of other angel books. Do you agree? How would you describe your kind of...
Because I never read anybody else's books. I just write what I'm given in my style.
Mm.
So I honestly
What is your style? What is your style? Tell us, because it will also give the audience
Okay.
an image.
I try to make things clear and simple. Sometimes I'd love to write a long, convoluted sentence with long words, and I take it out because I think that's ego, and I put in 2 simple sentences instead. So I try to get it clear and simple and concise so that people can understand it. I like to put in stories and my personal experiences and other people's personal experiences, because I think a story is better than any amount of dry teaching.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And when looking at this book, it's funny to see, my cat is lying here next to us. He never does that when I have interviews, so it's funny. So when looking through the book, it's very methodically, it's very step-by-step procedure, and every chapter has the same structure and a lot of material to actually go into and connect with whatever you describe in each chapter. So it's a very comprehensive book in that sense, that you can read, you can be inspired, and you can actually work on yourself with the help of this book.
Oh yeah.
And that's, to me, that's the way you write, because all of your books are more or less like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not it's not the same with all the other angel books. It's different. It's wonderful though.
Good. Thank you.
Good. So can you tell us a little bit about Metatron, because you have a close connection to him?
Well, we both do. Who do you want?
Yes. Okay. So tell me, both of you.
Oh, to me, Metatron is in charge of my life. You know, we all have an overlighting archangel who our guardian angel reports back every 7 years to your overlighting angel. Metatron is in charge of the universe, and he is a mighty, mighty golden orange angel, but also very simple. And I remember one day in my last house, I was painting a room dedicated to him. So I went to the shops to buy some paint, and I got 2 tones of orange, one for the main room and one for an alcove. And as I walked into the garage, I thought, oh, I do hope I've got the right colors. And this voice, loud and clear, said, you have, I chose them.
Of course.
I mean, the simple things, and yet he's in charge of the universe. He is awesome. And I love working with him. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, what about
It's again a very, very similar relationship. It's almost like I have daily conversations with Archangel Metatron, and have done for years. And the way I perceive it is that he's on a slightly more kind of like, you know, like on the day-to-day living, he's in charge of the entire ascension process. It's almost like the process that we're going through now, the shift from 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension, and all of the intricacies that are that we're encountering in the middle. All of this has been pre-planned. It's not a random chance happening. And all of the steps that we're going through, and people like Diana, myself, other teachers, light workers on the ascension pathway, we are all taking these steps day by day in accordance to a plan that we see has been written and put into action by Archangel Metatron and the souls that work with him as well. So it's almost like in France, if it's running the Tour de France, it'd be called the director sportif. It'd be the one who's in charge of the entire event. So you know, if you're reporting back at the end of the day, if you're asking for information, or you want very specific guidance for your own ascension pathway, he is always the archangel to talk to. It's almost like he's always been there. So it's literally his energy for myself, and Diana works with them in exactly the same way. It's so tangible. It's never absent. It's always present, always around. So it's interesting to work with.
So what about archangels? How many archangels are there?
Oh, infinite numbers. Actually, it's not. I can't remember. There are a specific number.
Okay. Yeah.
But there are many more than we would.
Yeah, because there are the ones we know, but there are also many others. And of course, they're not just around us on Earth. They're throughout the universe and other universes.
Yeah.
Of course.
And Metatron isn't just working with our universe. He works with other universes as well.
Busy angel.
Do you remember the first encounter with Metatron?
Yes.
Both of you?
I do. It's for me it was, again, it was shortly after, it was around the time of my accident, but I didn't know who or what this energy was at the time. There was just was continuously seeing golden orange light around me, golden orange light in my dreams, golden orange light in the things that I was experiencing on a day-to-day basis. It was only when I could actually, when this is information that Diana brought through years and years ago, that you can actually put a name to the energy. And that's why a lot of this work was so amazingly helpful for myself and for thousands of other people as well. It's yeah.
Diana.
Well, you know, Metatron slipped in quite quietly because I'd been working with Michael for a long time, and he used to be there sometimes in my dreams, but always as an energy around me. I remember one time I'd been out to some friends, came out, and there was sheet ice everywhere. And I thought, what do I do? I said, Michael, please help me. Got into the car, and this bright electric blue light shone all over in front of the car. And I thought, wow, Michael is here. He will help me. And I drove with this light, lighting the road up until I reached a whole lot of a maze of side roads until I reached the main road that was gritted, and then it switched off. And I thought, thank you. That's the sort of assistance that Michael gives you.
Yeah.
Because there are so many archangels helping us at the moment. I mean, I work very much with Gabriel as well, and he is helping with creativity, with clarity, and the purity of his energy. And I love working with Gabriel too. So it's not just Metatron for me.
And people who are interested in the angelic realm but don't know who their guardian or their archangel is, could you find out, or do you know that, or how do you get to know?
I think you have to do a meditation. I have done these occasionally on Zooms and things where you meditate and you ask your overlighting archangels to step forward, or you go back into your pre-life meeting, which is a very interesting time when you meet very often your family, but always your guardian angel and your overlighting angel. They're always there. And you have a sense of who it is at that time. Very often you're meeting your future family, your choices of partner in the future, all that sort of thing, so that you get that right before you start.
That's fantastic. That would be very interesting to be part of.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Think, oh my goodness, I really chose him because he could teach me that, or I chose that father because of this. I must have been mad at that moment, but actually,
small print.
You can see it then for what it is, why you made that choice.
Yeah. And gosh, that is so helpful in this life.
It is.
Understand. What do you want your audience to take away from this book? What do you want them to understand?
The ascension process and the fact that they can ascend in this lifetime, which is a huge opportunity, a lifetime for all of us. And here are all the tools that they need in order to raise their frequency to that level.
Yeah. absolutely. It's knowledge is power, especially where we are on the world is changing around us so dramatically at the moment. Obviously, there's going to be certain information that resonates with certain people, but as far as I'm concerned, it is a concisive aid. It teaches people, or it's designed to teach people all aspects of the things that they will experience once they step onto the pathway, start raising their vibration, are inevitably faced with all of the things that both Diana and I have been through ourselves. It's like Diana was saying earlier, there's no such, don't believe in dry teaching. Everything that's been placed into the book is from personal experience. It's things that we've learned. It's beings that we're in touch with. It's experiences that we've had and that we know other people are going to go through. So that's what the ultimate aim for the book is to give that knowledge base to everybody who reads it.
I think Tim is very good at receiving brand new energies that are waiting to return to Earth, and bringing those through, aren't you, Tim?
Yes.
Yeah, you often bring in things.
It's my daily vocation, that is.
Yeah.
It's like, what goodies have we got today, sort of thing.
It's lovely to see the both of you. I can tell that you know each other very well, and that you support each other in what you're good at.
Oh, thank you.
So in the book, there's a lot of descriptions and presentations about the different realms, or the dimensions of life. So the third dimension, the fourth, the fifth, and we're going into the seventh, and so on. So can you tell us a little bit? It's not very common to talk about after the fifth. We gave out a year ago, we gave out a book about the fifth dimension. And that's pretty high up, I thought. Yeah. But now we're climbing even further. So can you give us a short description? Where are we going? Where are we heading?
I personally believe. Sorry, after you.
No, I can see we're both.
You choose.
You go ahead.
It's the majority of us working on this pathway are already. I mean, it's one thing that's important to understand about the dimensions and people's perception that it's not a holiday destination. A dimensional space is a vibration. So a lot of us can already be fifth dimensional and are on a daily basis, depending on how vigilant we are with our thought structures. And we retain that fifth dimensional frequency. The energy of this planet has risen so incredibly in the last 8 years that so many of the people listening to this and so many others out there are already in a fifth dimensional state for a lot more of their day than they would ever give themselves credit for. And this is rising on a daily basis. But the part of the interesting part about this ascension process is that we are achieving this fifth dimensional vibration in a physical body. Okay, this is what's made it so different from other ascension processes. Previously, ascension meant losing your physical body, but not this time round. We've made different agreements, and so once you've hit a fifth dimensional vibration, we don't stop there with, you know, and I think this was the information that you brought through originally in Discover Atlantis, Dinah. We're going to hit 5D and just continue to climb. There's not going to be we're not going to be resting on our laurels for very long, are we?
Well, I think that you can reach a level 4 dimensions higher than you live in at that time. So now enough people are fifth dimensional that we can actually touch on the 9th dimension. But interestingly enough, even though it's not a physical dimension, many people are also starting to connect quite considerably with the 6th dimension. And so for the first time, we are able to bring in, say, a 10th dimensional unicorn, or bring in beings from a 10th dimensional level, some of the great illumined masters, etc., or that frequency of an archangel may only touch us for a second, but in that second, it can make a huge illuminating difference to our lives.
Yeah.
In the third dimension, you could only reach up to the seventh heaven, which was the seventh dimension. And that was like everything. But now we've moved into something quite suddenly, much, much faster frequency.
Yeah.
What would you, if you were to describe each dimension? The third is probably what I know. Is that true? Like where we live today, or
tangible reality, touch, sense, smell, experience. That what physical life was based on was third dimensional. The one that we experience.
Also, on an emotional level, it's self-centeredness. It's where you're concerned only with the outcome for yourself. Whereas we're moving into a fifth dimensional age now, where everybody is, well, at the fifth dimension, you're not just interested in self, you're interested in cooperating for the highest good, of being interdependent with everybody on the planet, with ensuring that there aren't rich and poor, but that everybody has enough. This is fifth dimensional living, and that's where our planet is heading now for the new golden age. That will be the foundation of the new age.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
It will be. It would be. It's happening. It's happening all around us.
Good. I can see that on a physical level. I can also feel that that's where we're going. I want to believe that. But I wonder when the main part of us will understand that it's also on an esoteric level or on an emotional level.
Well, the old paradigm is currently breaking down. We see it, high streets are disappearing, big businesses are collapsing. A lot of the old structures are now coming to an end. I mean, we're fighting it, we're trying to hold on, but they are coming to an end, and they are to be replaced with businesses that are local, that are helping the planet, that are working for the good of children and humanity. Those are the structures of the new dimensions, the new paradigm that are coming in. So it's happening all around us already.
If we just look with the higher self instead of our three-dimensional eyes.
Heart-based consciousness at the end of the day, it's moving from ego to heart-based. That's what transition from, that's what ascension is essentially. It's the transition from 3D to 5D, ego to heart. It's actually, if you simplify it, that's what happens. That's what all the fuss is about. It's quite funny, really.
And that's what COVID's about, of course, because it's an initiation of the heart. It's about the lungs. That's what people
speaking and
all of that energy, and it's and people are experiencing initiations of the heart. In other words, they might be staying at home, and in the past they've had to go out because they didn't want to deal with stuff. Now they've got to think about it, or they can't see their family and their loved ones, and this is something to do with the heart center and how we handle it. So all the lessons being brought to us now are about clearing the heart center.
That's very nice. And I truly believe that's what's happening in most cases, because we're talking a lot about how people are not feeling very well and how this is unhealthy mentally, because we are locked in and locked out and locked down and everything.
But the not feeling very well is also part of the energy rising and having to take that through your physical body. And that's having a physical impact on people.
Reevaluate things, like
and your body's having to reevaluate it too.
Lots of recalibrations.
That's very true. So if you were to give your Swedish audience the thing is, I have to just remember something, because I know that you have a following group in Sweden already.
Well, I think Tim does. He's been going for many years.
Oh, that's it. Because I talked to Lovisa. You know her, right?
Yeah, no, Louisa.
But have you both been to Sweden before?
Yes.
We went together this year in February, actually, literally.
This year.
The weekend. It was this. I know it's crazy. Isn't it? It was the weekend that all of the information came out that the lockdown was coming. Basically, that happened the weekend we went to Sweden, and we were in Uppsala, and lovely weekend. It was beautiful. But we came back and everything started shutting down. That was that.
No, well,
And
it
now
wasn't shut down before, was it?
No.
but you were able to get in before everything locked down.
Yeah.
So you met a small group of, or maybe a big group of Swedish people following your work.
Yeah.
It's going to be so fun to meet them with a Swedish book, actually, from you guys.
And of course, I've been going to Finland many, many times, and so has Tim.
Yeah.
Over the years, and there were a lot of Swedish people at those conferences.
Yeah, crossing the border.
If we were to follow up with another book, which book should we go for? Should we go for the master?
Well, the one we've written together, the other one we've written together is The Archangel Guide to Mastery and Enlightenment. Now, that's a much deeper look at the chakras.
Even so.
Yeah.
Much, much deeper.
But with this in the back, you can actually handle that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I can remember writing the second book with you, actually, Dana. The first one was just a breeze, wasn't it? It was such a beautiful writing experience. And then we were looking at each other when we were halfway through the second one. It's like, this is coming in at a very high frequency, isn't it? Because we're just like, oh, absolutely done after a couple of hours of writing. So yeah, it's the step up. It's the next step up, the next book.
I look forward to look through that one as well. So now you are facing your Swedish audience through this recording. So if you were able to give them three truths from your life and from your work with the angelic realm and the dimensions of life, what would you say to the Swedish audience?
Trust your impressions. Don't expect that there's going to be a shining light in front of you. Absolutely know that if you ask for an angelic being to be there, it is there.
I kind of live by it's almost like a daily code. Keep your light high, keep your frequency clear, and keep your manifestation sharp. Now, if you do those three things, the world around you falls into place regardless of what you are presented with. Because if you are as within, so without. As you are, your world will form around you. So I think that is one of the most, if they take that away and employ that and put that into reality, it works.
Both of you are living your life in high frequency, if not all the time, a lot of the time. So are you ever disturbed, distracted, and brought down? And if so, how do you get yourself back?
Well, I think there are tools and techniques which we explain in the book, which you can use at any time. You can call in the Christ light, and that centers you, grounds you, protects you, and takes you into a higher frequency, and many other energies that we talk about. And I mean, that's the whole point of having these tools, that you can actually use them. If the family gets too much, you're not getting any space, or you're bored, or whatever. That's what the tools are for.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think anybody on the spiritual pathway that says that they don't have days where they're disturbed and they're not challenged aren't actually really kind of embracing the spiritual pathway in the first place. I think a lot of the time, it's this particular pathway, spirituality, comes with kind of quite a fluffy label, but in actual fact, the reality is you have to put the hours in, you have to put the work in. So you are going to be knocked out of kilter and you are going to have to bring yourself back to center again. And it requires discipline, it requires tools, it requires being on the ball with it the whole time. If you make it you, as you know, if you make that aspect of who you are here on this planet make it a full-time job, you can't go wrong, really. It just that's how it works.
I think you also have to trust the angels to look after you.
Yeah.
And be prepared to let go of what you wanted, that's ego, and say, okay, just bring me what's for the highest good.
Yeah.
And it might be something you weren't expecting, but it's always better.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. So whenever you're in doubt, or I'm in doubt, if what I'm doing is an ego thing, and if I should look for a better path or a higher path, I could always ask.
Just say, if this is for my highest good, bring it forward. If it's not, let it go. Please take it away.
But aren't we people really, really good at forcing through whatever the ego wants?
Yeah, that's why you have to let it go. And letting it go, surrendering your ego on a subject, is so massively powerful, because then the angelic realms can bring you something so much better.
You just have to understand that you have to let it go, what it is you need to let go.
And genuinely let it go.
Yeah. In the heart.
Yeah.
Good. So I think, Tim, that you just gave me your life motto, but if you have another one, please bring it on. And I want to hear Diana's as well, if you have a life motto.
I would, on a daily basis, live by the heart as much as you possibly can. You know, it's and this goes for anything that you're presented with as well. If you are approaching the world from a heart-centered consciousness, and this is something you have to work on. You do have to put the hours in. You do have to put the attention and the focus into it. If you're approaching life and viewing life and analyzing life from a heart-centered consciousness, then everything is going to appear and come to you from a higher perspective. It's when thing goes through the filter of the ego that it becomes, you get dragged into the dramas, you get dragged into the lower frequencies, things appear, you know, or they come at you from a different angle. Anything that's been presented to me, particularly over the course of this year, I've approached it from a heart-centered consciousness. So I actually understand what's going on rather than what my ego impression of it is, if you see what I mean. So that again is a one that I would say is a very important code to live by, is to approach everything from a higher frequency, everything from a higher perspective.
Thank you. Diana, do you have one?
What I want to say is similar to Tim, but slightly different angle, which is walk with the angels and masters. And I have written some books about orbs, and I love the orbs. And what I do is I look for an orb and I take one out of my orbs pack or orbs books, and I just imagine myself in it. And I breathe into it. And the only one on my desk at the moment is this one. And this is Archangel Metatron with Archangel Jophiel, the angel of wisdom. Beautiful. And so I would breathe into it. I would breathe it around me. I would feel that orange energy filling my aura. And I would go out and I would spread it to other people. But I've had the most awesome and amazing experiences when I've been out somewhere and I have put the energy of the Archangel, whichever one it is, around my aura. And that's when people behave differently to you. Animals behave differently to you. Elementals behave differently. It is completely awesome and something that it's quite easy to do, but is life-changing on a daily basis.
So a lot of practice, at least in your heart and your mind. Let go of your mind and get into the heart.
Yeah.
Much as possible. Good.
So Diana and Tim, I thank you so much for your time with me, and I want to let you go for the rest of your day.
Thank you. Lovely talking to you.
Alexandra.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much.
Bye.
Bye for now.